5. New Horizons. Pluto may have ice volcanoes. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 3. Science and Technology, Exploration of Space and Interplanetary Missions. Why recently in news? 2 possible ice volcanoes have been identified on the surface of Pluto. They are seen in images returned from the New Horizons probe, which flew past the distant dwarf planet in July. The mountains are several km high and tens of km across, and each has what appears to be a depression in the top. Unlike Earth volcanoes that spew molten rock, Pluto's volcanoes, if that is what they are, would likely erupt an icy slush of substances such as water, nitrogen, ammonia or methane. What were the observations of New Horizons probe dated back to July 2015? Horizons spacecraft reached its nearest point to the Pluto and sent back high-resolution images of Pluto. Also, the diameter of Pluto was accurately measured to be 2,370 kilometers. The lowest layer of Pluto's atmosphere, called the troposphere, is shallower than previously believed. It also found that Pluto is in light reddish color due to hydrocarbon molecules that are formed when cosmic rays and solar ultraviolet light interact with methane in Pluto's atmosphere. About New Horizons space probe. New Horizons is an interplanetary space probe that was launched as a part of NASA's New Frontiers program. New Horizons is spacecraft launched in 2006 to study the dwarf planet Pluto. It flew by Jupiter in 2007 and will pass by Pluto in July 2015 before heading farther into the Kuiper Belt, a massive zone of icy bodies beyond Neptune. About Pluto. Pluto is a dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt. Like other Kuiper Belt objects, Pluto is primarily made of ice and rock. Pluto was discovered in 1930 by Clyde Tombaugh, and was originally considered the 9th planet from the Sun. After 1992, its status as a planet fell into question following the discovery of several similarly sized objects in the Kuiper Belt. Pluto has 5 known moons: Charon, the largest, with a diameter just over half that of Pluto, Styx, Nix, Kerberos, and Hydra. 6. Rhino killed in Kasaranga, toll rises to 14 this year. This topic is important under General Studies Paper 3. Conservation of biodiversity and restriction of poaching. Why recently in news? Poachers managed to kill another rhino at Kasaranga, a World Heritage Site about 250 kilometers from Assam capital city, on Sunday, barely a week after the national park was open to visitors. The latest poaching that took place in the Bagori forest range of the park has increased the toll of rhinos to 14 so far this year. Recent rhino stats in Assam. Currently there are 2,553 rhinos in Assam, as per the State Forest Department's census in 2013, with 2,329 dwelling in Kasaranga, 100 in the Orang National Park, 93 in Pabitora Wildlife Sanctuary and 31 in the Manaus National Park. According to data available on mortality, 41 rhinos were killed in Assam last year, including 27 in Kasaranga, 2 in Pabitora, 4 in Orang, 4 in Manaus and 6 others outside protected areas mainly near Kasaranga. 22 rhinos were killed by poachers in Assam till September 3 this year. What for rhinos are being poached nowadays? The amount that a single rhino horn is worth clocking in at a higher value on the black market than both gold and cocaine. The use of it in traditional Chinese medicine, where it is believed to have magical healing properties. The rhino horn is ground into powder to help cure ailments such as vomiting, arthritis, headaches, fever, and some Vietnamese even believe cancer. The apparent ease with which rhino horns are smuggled out of Africa along with many other endangered species. Why it is challenging to conserve rhinos in Assam. Recent high demand for rhino horn in China and Southeast Asian countries. Insufficient intelligence gathering and field-based action for tracing the poachers' networks. Low rate of conviction of the suspects due to improper legal procedures and lack of proper evidence gathering mechanism. Permeability of the protected area boundaries and insufficient anti-poaching camps and patrolling at the border areas. Insufficient government action for providing security, basic facilities like uniform, water filter, and boosting the morale of the frontline forest staff and field officers. Lack of mechanism for monitoring and protection of straying rhinos outside the protected areas. Poor coordination of the Forest Department with residents, local organizations, and other government agencies in generating support for conservation and protection. Delay in release of funds to the protected areas by the government. Lack of expert guidance in understanding the root causes behind poaching, leading to the failure of protests in effectively pressuring the government. What measures are being taken by government to conserve rhinos? Field staff is recruiting from among locals living in the vicinity of protected areas so that they remain supportive to the conservation efforts. The ministry was urged to constitute local monitoring committees involving residents, organizations, honorary wildlife wardens, and other stakeholders regarding conservation in and around the rhino-bearing protected areas. There was a request to form armed protection squads trained by the army along the lines adopted in South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana with modern armaments, electronic surveillance, and vehicles for protection and anti-poaching actions both outside and inside protected areas. Some other demands submitted to the Ministry of Environment and Forests. There should be compulsory service provision to work for 5 initial years in wildlife areas for newly recruited forest guards and foresters. The government should make forensic investigation of each poaching case and seizure mandatory so that the conviction rate for the suspects apprehended by the law implementing agencies could be increased. The government must introduce a strong system of accountability for higher officers in the Forest Department responsible for management and protection of rhino-bearing protected areas. Deployment of sniffer dog units as an effective anti-poaching measure. Taking up rhino poaching and rhino horn smuggling investigations in Nagaland and Manipur.